Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Usually Fixing and Tinkering, and this time I have come back to Project Ruby. After a few trips out and some successful shows, I'm really pleased that she's continuing to work well. And there were a number of things that I noticed on the drive, but the main one that I wanted to monitor very carefully is the oil burning. I took a can of engine oil, 1040 semi-synthetic, just the spare oil that I had left from the first oil change that I did on this car several months ago. That oil has achieved around approximately 201 miles exactly before it's going to come out today. I was always aiming for a second oil change, but I wanted to actually make it more thorough this time. And I've always wanted to know what's in that sump, because we know that CVHs love to sludge up their oil. You really do have to change the oil on these things. And everything about this engine suggests, especially when I took the cam cover off to reveal all the hydraulic valves at the top, so when I did the oil valve stem seals, which was a fantastically successful job, but it didn't really make a difference because there was just too much blue stuff coming out the back. Not a huge amount, but some. And the smells and the odours to these car shows, dearie me, the first time I drove to the Great British Car Journey not long ago, it smelled like a barbecue. I could see people behind me going and then doing an overtake in the right-hand lane. Oh my goodness me, this is something else. The journey back was far better. I could smell far less. The car has what most cars have, like a recirculation, an air recirculation function to make sure that the air in the cabin doesn't remain stale or smelly odours that you want to dispel quickly using a button on the dash that opens a recirculation function. My car, it's got its own recirculation function, but it means that the driver obviously has to kind of be part of the circuit and open the sunroof, so the exhaust gases come out the back of the car, do a loop up through the roof and in through the cabin, so I get to smell my own exhaust gases. Fantastic. And it did give me a couple of headaches, but this is the thing. When I got home after the first journey from the Great British Car Journey, thank God the car behaved and she worked an absolute treat. In fact, I gained confidence in the car. I was driving there gingerly at 50-55 on the A38, and on the way back I just gunned it at about 60-65 maybe at a touch. I didn't want to gun it too much, but there was a bit more confidence, and I think the car grew in confidence. I literally feel that I had a few more horses on that second journey. Maybe it's in my head, because you know how things can go to your head sometimes. But it was certainly much better on the way back in terms of the smells. And one thing I monitored straight away is the day after, when the engine was cold, how much engine oil was left before, well, effectively after 120 miles on that day. I was expecting to see a drop. There was no drop. In fact, the amount of oil on the dipstick had gone up. Yeah, you got that right. The oil on the dipstick went up. That, in the Rover world, is massive alarm bells, because we know what happens then. Head gasket, coolant has gone into the sump. Not good. Not good. Coolant mixing with oil, and we'd have some symptoms here. But I'm actually quite pleased to report a couple of symptoms are not there. For start, that coolant level did not drop an inch. It's just dirty because there's sediment in the block. I've got to flush it out again. And the engine oil that has come out of this car at the start of this video, as you saw, well, come over here and we're going to have a look at it. So, we've got the filter out as well. We're going to change this as well. So we've got some fresh engine oil to do a quick fire 200 mile engine oil change, because I think this needs it. Excuse the droplets, I don't know what all this stuff is. It's just stuff that's dropped in there. But if I get my fingers, that feels a little bit thicker from what I'm used to, but only a little bit thicker. There's no chunks, it's quite smooth. It's quite smooth. And the main thing is it's black. It smells of engine oil. So the other question might be as to why this engine oil level has risen is because I'm getting fuel in the oil. Now there's always a certain amount of oil, of fuel that you'll get in the oil over a period of time, just like condensation, which is why you change the engine oil regardless of mileage. I always change my cars religiously at 12 months, every single one of them. And both Beatrix and the Focus, that it's like water even after 12 months. This isn't water, as you can see. It's not particularly bad for CVH, it really isn't. But there is a little bit of carbon in here, and I suspect some is getting past the piston rings. But what isn't in here is coolant, 100%, you'd see it. Secondly, I can't smell fuel in this oil. Sometimes fuel evaporates, but for the engine oil to have risen over the dipstick by probably about that much, we're talking, why has it risen? And this has prompted me to not only do an oil change, but to get something off that I was going to do anyway. Basically, I am going to do a sump removal. The reason that I've removed the starter motor is to access a couple of hidden bolts that I couldn't have otherwise done. They're all 10mm bolts. We're going to get the sump off, Ruby. We're going to find out what is under there and basically how much sludge there is, and embark on one of the most disgusting exercises since I did Beatrix's sump. So this is going to be really fun. So let's crack on and see what we've got. Well, before we do that, shall we do a little experiment? Shall we see how little water it takes to make oil look like mayonnaise, or be obviously mayonnaise-y? I've just put some oil in there, and we've only got not a massive amount of oil in there, but I'm just going to put a little bit of this in. See how bubbly that becomes? Yeah, bubbly water. Okay, we've had a bit of a coolant leak. Yeah, you see all this water, H2O holds a bubble. Look at that. Now that's going to be very obvious when you do an oil change. Now it is very normal actually. When you drop oil out the sump pan, it can go a bit bubbly like this, but the bubbles should go away straight away. It's just air bubbles effectively from the splashing. But look at that, you can't get rid of that. Now antifreeze does a little bit more than that. Oh, there we go. We're getting some big ones over here. Yeah. That'll be very obvious. Very, very obvious. So if you've got engine oil with loads of these bubbles going around, it may not go mayonnaise-y, interestingly. But look at that. It's starting to multiply now. The water is going everywhere and it's looking sludgy. Look at that. Oh, try that again. I think it might be a bit difficult to pick up on camera, but you get the picture. Disgusting. What I'm gonna have to do is you're gonna have to have a couple of these. This is my cheat gun, just to save me doing all these little tiny bolts. Now, I might need a new exhaust manifold gasket now I've done this, but I'm hoping not. Unfortunately, this downpipe, as you're gonna see today, is not in great condition. And unfortunately, I've discovered that for 1.4 CVH on a Mark III Fiesta, that downpipe that goes all the way to the back there, where it joins up to that flange, oh yeah, that's £185 from Portugal. Can't get them in the UK. Not even the aftermarket manufacturers do them. Yeah, brilliant. Mark IV Escort 1.4 downpipe, not applicable. 1.6 Mark III Fiesta CVH downpipe, not applicable, different bore. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, when people say, get a classic Ford, it's a Ford, there'll be plenty of parts. You're joking? Ugh. So what you've mainly got to do here is pull this down. Now, what you got to do, because you've got no flexi, I'm gonna have to do this. There should be enough play to get it off these studs. There we go, done. Ooh, now let's just let it rest against the block. There we go. Okay, Just let it rest down there. Well, you can see the reason why, I mean, I can't believe on a Mark III, the only hangers is the back box and the middle box. There's no hanger around here, which is quite interesting, but I mean, look at this. This paint has already been on probably a few months and it's already just, yeah, this pipe is not very good. One day I'm going to get a hole in it, and I'll tell you what, I do not fancy getting these two buggers out to get that off on the manifold. That's going to be some job not. Some of you might have recognised that I've actually painted this. I did it in black before, but now I've done it in the actual diamond white. Bit of spare I had from the boot, because that's how it looked from the factory. It would have actually had white paint underneath and then the grey over the other side. So yeah, I'm glad I could show you that. But I tell you what, there's no leaks down here. Ignore that. That's just the oil filter dripping onto the drive shaft and dripping onto the exhaust. I'm sure that this will give me some steam, some smoke on startup, but Jesus, yeah, this is severely overflowing here. I've only left it for a few minutes and it continually drips out, but we're going to get this off. So you take the starter motor off because we can't get to some of these bolts, but I'm going to get a new sump gasket, obviously, guys. You can get to these bolts without disturbing the alternator, so yeah, that's fine. And then the other side is fine as well. There are, I think, no problems with getting this off as one piece, because this is the gearbox. Obviously you've got the drive plate through here, but the gearbox sort of plate that goes on this side. Beatrix over there, when I took the sump off Beatrix, this was exactly the same on Beatrix. The K-Series kind of came round and you had a couple of bolts that they'd added in for the K-Series, but it looks like I'm going to have to study that. The problem is with the manual is that it will only tell you things for the manual gearbox. The automatics didn't even get a say, I believe, in the Haynes manual, or briefly anyway. But yeah, anyway, I think the gearbox is suitably rested against that bracket and it's not impeding me at all. So I'm just going to chuck you here. It's nice to see that all this is preserved really nicely. I can't see any problems. There's no gearbox leaks at all. I'm really pleased with how this looks. It's not been a long time, but it's been some time. It's just this rusty. Yeah, anyway, let's crack on and get all these blasted bolts undone. Lovely. Right, we're almost off, but I couldn't be sworn, but after touching my rubber mallet a few times, there's only one bolt holding this sump on. Oh no, tell me about it. Actually, if you look up here, it actually goes all the way around, so I've got to take this plate off. So I do have to take this plate off. Don't know why I didn't see that then. Yep, so I'm going to have to take quite a few of these bolts out to get this plate off, and this plate starts here and it goes round the corner. I hope I don't have to take a drive shaft out, because that really is going to escalate things, but hopefully not. There's always more panels to take off. 17mm is required. There you go. It's just a cheap tin shield they put on the CVTs. So every car is different. The adapter plate is always different, whatever engine it is. Beatrix's is very shallow, but this one seems to be a little bit bigger, probably CVH, because it's got this massive cutout for the exhaust. Same as the K-Series, really. But if you take a look at the sump bolts, quite standard, quite thin actually for sump bolts. I've been used to thicker for the threads. They almost look like they're going to snap. Mind you, typically. Ah, yes, that's how cheap it is. It looks okay at the back there. Just, yeah, I'll degrease that, probably give that a paint up. It's greasy as hell. If I put this camera in, oh, yeah. Interesting, it looks like somebody has been at it. That is RTV. Yeah, that's RTV on your crank seal, presumably, because the crank seals on these seal to the sump. I'm assuming. I might have got that wrong because it's like an oval shape. I've had this before with the engine on the P6, so it was practically similar. But yeah, okay, we're in. It looks like we didn't need to take this tin shield off, which is quite interesting. Oh no, we've got a hidden bolt. Yeah, we've got a bolt that's actually hidden from view. You can't see it, but there's one bolt there where my finger is. Yeah, and then there's another one there, really well hidden, and oh dear me, this is going to be some pleasure to retrieve. Yep, that's one out. There we go. Sorry about the loss of lighting, but yeah, that joins the collection. Right, we should be now completely free. We've only got one. There's only one on the back side. Yeah, okay. Right, so the question is just to keep persevering. This sump may have been on for some time. It will drop. I don't want to mess. Right, I've had to come over to here because I can't quite get this sump off because this bloody adjuster for the alternator, this bolt, I've just got to take it out. I'll readjust the alternator at some other point. There we go. Just wind the bolt in. It's just that thread is stopping this whole thing from coming out. So might have to take the old alternator off. I hope not, but just take this bolt out. No, I do have to take the alternator off. God, this is frustrating. Getting at these bolts, getting at that bolt down there when I've got this. I just have to shove this out the way, but flipping egg. Yep, have to do the other side. God, what a pain this is. And to tighten, got a 14mm on one side and a 13 on the other, and turning them against each other. God, I hate it. And by the way, anybody who's saying, why can't you push the alternator in to get the fan belt off and then flip it forwards? I can't, because the fan belt is so tight. This is a brand new fan belt, and the alternator is in its most untensioned position. Believe it or not, that's how it's actually, it is the correct belt, but it's a lot shorter than the stretched one that's in my spares at the moment. There we go. No, he says that, but they're stuck on the thread. I'm going to have to tap these alternator bolts, especially because I've done this a few times. See how, hear that? That is how tight it is. Right, I've been quite clever there. So the fan belt is now free, okay? And what I've done is I've just put that bolt back in, and now I can just move this blasted thing out the way, and we can get the sump off at last. Right. Right, this is the moment of truth. He says, got to move the exhaust manifold down again. No doubt that's what's keeping it on. Yes. Oh dear. Live on camera. Oh God, the gasket's still on. Oh yes, that's the dipstick I'm just touching. Well, that's interesting. Right, there's your baffle. I'll get that and have clean out of it, but this rubber gasket is shot. Okay, it's just been held up by this. Oh, flip. Always dropping it, and interesting. I can't see here. Let's get this thing out. Right, for the reveal. So you've got the baffle here that's welded onto the side of the sump, and I've got a feeling someone's been using instant. Oh no, actually, that's Coke. That's old oil. It felt like RTV that just now. That's interesting. Obviously, that's the rear and that's the front. This is quite dry on this side. Yeah, this is sludgy. Look at that. Do you know something? Goodness me, this is a million miles better than what I was expecting. It's minimal. Even down there's hardly any coke. Goodness me, this is a well-maintained CVH. Is that it? My Rover P6 had probably worse in terms of the sump. Beatrix's was awful. So why is my engine oil level rising? Now that I've seen this sump, the oil rising issue, I've got a feeling that all these new fresh detergent oils, because remember engine oil contains detergent, I think it's shifting the crud. It's shifting it, and well, it's shifting it into the right place in the filter or in the sump, and that might be why my oil level is rising. But this is one heck of a well-maintained CVH. The sump is going to get cleaned with paraffin, thinners, petrol, and it's all going to go back together rather nicely with a new gasket. Wow. So I thought I'd just take you here to just have a little bit of a look for those of you who are not people that have taken the bottom of a sump off. So if I just bring you around here, you might get covered in oil, guys. Ford imprinting on the bearings, 5 main bearings on this engine, and then you've got your big end, your conrod bearings. Usually it's your main ones that go first. You can get all brand new bearings for a CVH, but I am not disturbing any of this. It's not giving me any cause of concern. The usual cause of concern is low oil pressure, usually when the light comes on, but when the light comes on it could also be too late. I'm going to have a look at this pickup strainer. I've got a feeling, oh goodness me, we've got some crud in there. Oh yeah, we've got the gauze filter straight in there. Look at that piece of rubbish caught on that. That's going to restrict your oil pressure. We need that to be free. Yeah, I'm going to have to take this off. It looks like I've got one bolt there and another bolt there. That's fine, they look like 13s to me, but everything else looks okay. You see, that's where it sits on the rim. That sump seal just sits along there. Looks like there's been some antifreeze. If you look at that, there's been some antifreeze just on the rim there, just some antifreeze, powdery antifreeze. But very old stuff. You see why I had to move the alternator, it's too close. But yeah, looks all good here, and I'm just going to bring it to the back side. So yes, your dipstick sticks out quite a fair bit, doesn't it? It actually sticks out quite a fair manner, but you can tell like where the maximum is. I'll tell you where it is. The maximum on this dipstick is here, so the oil level will just sit below these main bearing caps. Quite interesting. I just look down here. I've got some. It's a really golden up there. I'm just looking up into some of the pistons. Yeah, I can imagine a bit of oil might be coming through there and going into the cylinder, which was the suspicion. I might just turn this engine by hand just to squeeze a bit more of this crappy oil out of it, but it is going to have a couple of oil changes. This side is also very good against the flywheel. Yeah, that's rather nice. Good. I like what I see here. There's no real way of tearing how much wear an engine has until you take one of these bearing caps off, but I don't really want to be disturbing stuff unduly. Yes, I might discover. The problem is when you start looking at things like that, you don't stop, and where'd you go? Big end bearings, conrod bearings, and then you start rebuilding the entire engine. I know where this goes, and I've gone into this a little bit too much before. Anyway, I'm going to take this baffle off. I'm going to cut to another part, but I have something to show you in the experiment department. Oh, look at this. Look at the another load of mess that I've made. Yes, my landlord loves me. Look at what is left at the bottom. All these dregs. It's horrible. When you check your engine from cold, the biggest tip that coolant or water has got in your engine, got into your sump I should say, is this creamy effect. I mean, that's gone really creamy. Just a tiny bit of water and that has gone nasty already. It's horrible. That's only a tiny amount of water. It will get far worse than that if you've got coolant leaking around your system, and that really is the death knell for a lot of cars, especially K-series engines. But an awful lot of engines do this. When the head gaskets go, this is one of the results. So top tip, look for this milky stuff at the end of your dipstick when the engine is cold. I can't believe the amount of mess that's made. That was tiny. Anyway, I'm going to leave this episode here. I've got a lot of painting to do, a lot of nice cleaning up to do, a lot of thinners in the sump. That sump will be crystal clean, like I did Beatrix. If anybody's watched the Road 45 videos, that was crystal clean. I'm going to be really messy the next week, and I don't like doing jobs like this, but the end results are always required and always successfully excellent. And that's what I do. I do things in the long term, and I'm not doing just this for me. I'm doing it for the next owner, the next custodian, because that's what's good for the car, and that's what's good for you as well as the owner. Anyway, I don't think we need to see anything more here. Ruby has not given me any concerns today, and I can't wait to get all this back on. Take care, guys. Just an added extra, guys. Just taken that nut off, taken that one off up there, and if you come here, we have the oil pickup to the oil pump at the front, held on by two T30 Torx. There you go. Oh yes, sludge mania. That's what that's for.